Can I ask you first, Bilal, do the Islamist fighters that you're amongst accept, indeed, do they have any evidence that this attack did indeed take place and took place on this scale?
Well, I think that the entire world actually has the proof that it actually took place, unless they've got some really, really darn good actors, which I'm sure that they do not. It's clear that the gas attack took place. However, the issue is not whether it took place, because there's a consensus on that, but the issue is who was the actual perpetrator of it. That's, well, I think, the
that's what I want to press you on, because yesterday the Deputy Foreign Minister of Syria said it was the Islamist fighters who did this.
Well, I think it's clear to everybody, to the intelligence communities around the world, that the Islamic fighters do not have these types of delivery systems for these chemical weapons. However, the Syrian regime does have it. So I think you can pretty much put 1 + 1 together and it equals 2, not 4 or 6.
The interesting thing is the timing, isn't it? The fact that there was a team of UN weapons inspectors on the ground. I mean, what do the people that you're amongst inside Syria, what do they make of this, the timing?
Well, amongst the fighters, to be honest with you, there's a level of skepticism. They are not 100% convinced in terms of who the actual perpetrator actually is, because the timing is extremely strange. Some of them feel that this may be a pretext or a reason to intervene. Some of them believe that the regime is responsible. But I think it all comes down to one thing. Those chemical weapons are part and parcel and under the lock and key of the Syrian government. The Islamic fighters do not have access to those weapons. So either it was Bashar al-Assad who actually launched that attack, or it was someone within his regime who was complicit with foreign powers to launch that attack. They don't know, but there's a lot of speculation, but there's nothing conclusive.
Now, the Islamist fighters that you're filming amongst must, in these last few days, have been preparing to face some sort of attack, because it looked very much as if the Americans were even going to do it over this last weekend. Tell me what it was like being amongst them as you waited for this attack.
Well, the atmosphere is one of it's eager anticipation. I would probably say is the best way to describe it. None of them feel that the attack will be exclusive to the regime. Everyone, and I'm probably using this word, I'm choosing my words carefully in the respect that everyone feels that there's going to be some level of attack upon the Islamic fighters as well, which is something that they would not like to see, nor would I like to see it, because I think that there needs to be more of a dialogue between the different countries, the US, the UK, and other countries in the West. There needs to be more dialogue with these Islamic fighters, because what they're fighting for and what the West actually wants really isn't so incompatible. And I've said this before.
Well, of course, that's exactly what the Deputy Foreign Minister of Syria said yesterday. He said to the Americans, if you bomb, you're going to be aiding al-Qaeda. That's what he said.
Well, I myself am not talking about al-Qaeda. There's a misconception that every Islamic fighter is a part of al-Qaeda, and that's the equivalent of saying every journalist is a part of BBC or every journalist is a part of CNN. There are many, many fighters. There are more than 100,000 fighters in the country. And to say that everybody is a part of al-Qaeda is really, really far from the actual truth of the matter.
However, how would you divide those numbers? What percentage do you think of the Islamist fighters you're amongst that you meet on the road? What percentage do you think are effectively al-Qaeda, and what percentage are therefore Islamists and fighting for, in a sense, a slightly different cause?
Well, the reason you find that I often say that I would like for the intelligence communities to re-look at these fighters is for a reason. Sometimes you will hear someone say that they're a part of al-Qaeda. Yes, we're a part of al-Qaeda, they will say. But what is their real affiliation to al-Qaeda other than some romantic notion, to be honest with you? Because I've been with these people for about a year, filming them, seeing them, knowing how they move and act and think, there is no direct connection to the leadership of al-Qaeda for many of these young fighters who go over there from the UK or other places. There's no direct connection other than there's some romanticism that they feel that they're a part of a larger organization. That's why I really would like to see that if there's going to be benefit for all parties concerned, let's look at not the names, but let's look at the actual goals that these Islamic fighters want, and look at the goals that the West actually wants, and that's to save the Syrian people from the oppression that they're currently under and see them live in peace and prosperity. If that's what the West wants, I think that they're going to find a compatible partner with these Islamic fighters.
Let me ask you again then about the impending attack, and particularly last week when it really looked as if it might happen over the weekend. Were people around you themselves worried that although the attack was going to be on Assad and his resources, they might take the chance to hit some radical Islamist positions as well?
Well, sure. They did, I should say, they do feel that way. They do feel that they would take the opportunity to say, you know, while we're at it, we can engage some of the people that we deem to be our enemies. So there was a lot of movement of assets, a lot of movement of weaponry from one place to another, you know, in anticipation of that, that particular attack. I think that it's important to note a very important point here.
Forgive me, they were taking down the flags and things like that?
The West has pretty much stalled on their on some of the rhetoric that was put forward last week in terms of an attack is imminent, a strike is imminent, and now it's pulled back that the Congress is going to, it was going to be discussed with the Congress on the 9th of September and so on and so forth. I think it really needs to be noted that there were 100,000 people who were killed before this attack took place, more than 100,000. But there's a lot of focus on the last 1,500.
I'm just trying to get a picture.
The Islamic fighters feel that one killed is too many. And that's why they came there, or I should say that's why they went there, so that they could stop this wholesale killing. And I feel that it really needs to be examined what the intentions are behind the so-called intervention. Is it for U.S. national interests? Is it to help the Syrian people? Because once the intentions are clear, then I think that it would be easier for people to accept the quote-unquote help that may be coming. And I use the word help in quotation marks.
In that moment, when you and some of those people around you thought that the attack on Assad might also embrace attacks on radical Islamists, I mean, were they taking down flags? Were they trying to disguise who they were and that sort of thing? I mean, just what was the picture like? You say they were moving assets. What about identities?
Okay, well, firstly, I think there needs to be something that needs to be addressed in terms of the question when you mention radical Islamists. Because are all of the fighters that are there, are they all radical Islamists? Are they? And I mean, that's a question that really needs to be addressed, because many of them went there to stop the killing. Many of them went there to stop attacks that many of the people in the West are just hearing about now that have been going on for quite some time. So I don't know if it's actually accurate, whether it's fair or not, but I would say I don't think it's really accurate to say and to sum them all up as radical Islamists, because I don't think there's anything radical about saving lives. To speak more in terms of your question, yeah, there's been a change in terms of moving assets and such like that and all, but in terms of changing flags and things of this nature, I can't say that I have seen that, although I can't discount it, because they are anticipating that a part of this attack is going to be on them as well.
And as you as an American who's now been in and out of Syria for this last 12 months, an American Muslim, What's it been like for you? And how would you gauge how things have changed in that year that you've been there?
Well, how has it been for me as an American? Sometimes it's a little bit tense because Americans bring a nice, hefty kidnapping price. So I have to be cognizant of that. That's the first thing. How things have changed? Things have changed that things are a bit more organized than they have been, than they were a year ago. There's a lot more coordination amongst the different groups, and even though a lot of the groups have different names and different leaders and such like that, they all pretty much work together, and they all generally, and I'm using the word generally loosely, they all generally pretty much get along, and that includes the Islamic groups and the Free Syrian Army, because they all pretty much have a similar goal. So that's how I could say that it's changed over the last 12 months inside of the country.
Now, I'm not anticipating that you're going to send a note to your congressman, but how do you want him to vote? Bomb or not bomb?
It's not, as human beings, we like black and white, but unfortunately, that's not really the case. The reality of the situation is that if the U.S. administration and her allies are interested in helping the Syrian people, then I do believe that some intervention needs to take place. However, if they are thinking that it's going to be within the U.S. administration's interest to bomb Bashar and to bomb the Islamic fighters who are trying to stop and trying to take down these airports where these planes are being launched and taking off to kill the Syrian people and to launch these different attacks, if they are thinking that that's actually going to help the Syrian people, I would say that I would really like to see them rethink their options, think about what they want to do, because that's not going to help the Syrian people. It's not going to help Americans to feel better or to feel safer or to put an end to this, I'm going to use this word, I'm just going to say this stupid war on terror.
Bilal Abdul Kareem, thank you very much indeed for talking with us.
Thank you very much.